Loki Season 1 finale answered all of our questions from these first 6 episodes, but created a whole lot more for Season 2, and a couple are going to get answered in MCU movies. Welcome back to Comicbook.com, it's BD, and we're about to break down the ending of Loki Season 1 and all of its Easter eggs, and at the end of this video, I'll give you my full reaction, spoilers ahead. The episode starts with lots of sound, songs, and lines from the MCU to this point. We hear an Iron Man repulsor, which references the movie that started the MCU as a whole, but we also hear lots of lines from MCU characters. I won't run through all of them, but if you watch the logo animation with captions on, you'll see names ranging from Korg to Black Widow, and there's just a lot going on. It's a very clever logo opening, reminding us that this is our universe and we are about to meet some others. The song predominantly in the background is It's Been a Long, Long Time, which is of course a reference to timelines, but also the song played when Steve Rogers stayed in the past to dance with Peggy Carter to wrap up Avengers Endgame. When we get a wide shot of the universe, there's a spaceship that goes by really quickly. This is obviously Monica Rambeau's aerospace engineer referenced in WandaVision, aka Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic. I'm just kidding, it's more likely going to be something tying into Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, but it could be anything. Really, at this point, just a safe bet that it's going to pay off in a future MCU movie.
You don't know that.
Miss Minutes jump scares the hell out of us. She is scheming all along, protecting the person who created the TVA. She gives Ravonna a file of information that is seemingly new information from Kang the Conqueror, which will probably start her on a path towards their romantic timeline domination story. It could even send her into a destiny of becoming Terminatrix or one of her other super aliases. Ravonna was a teacher as recently as 2018. Her degree on the wall is from Ohio State University. Shout out to our Phase Zero podcast guest Cam Hayward, who is also a Buckeye. And her real name is Rebecca Torminette. The scene is very empty. There's no kids around, so either the school is out for the day, or it could be a scene after Thanos snapped half the universe away, and that would put Rebecca in a very vulnerable place as a survivor, therefore making her easy prey for Kang the Conqueror, and then he can transform her into the Judge Renslayer we have seen. This explains the Franklin D. Roosevelt pens in Ravonna's office, as it was the high school she worked at, and it wasn't actually tied to Mobius, as I predicted in previous videos. Jonathan Majors makes his MCU debut, and he calls himself He Who Remains, which is a comic book character who was the final director of the TVA and the last surviving member at the end of time. This version is a nod to that He Who Remains character, but also is Kang the Conqueror. He even says that he has been called a conqueror, which is a straight up Easter egg to his name, and he's dressed in garb that looks just like Immortus, the version of Kang that got tired of fighting and accepted immortality from the Timekeepers in exchange for overseeing and maintaining their timelines. Before he was Kang, this character was likely a Nathaniel Richards version of himself, who was super smart, and he got in contact with himself from other universes. They fought, they had a multiversal war, and this one created a sacred timeline. This seems to be introducing the concept of secret wars where heroes from different universes all end up fighting each other, with Doctor Doom as the big villain of it all. But now that Sylvie has killed this version of Kang, the multiverse has been blown wide open, and variant versions of him are free to start infesting all of the timelines that have just been created, and maybe Kang is going to be the villain of Secret Wars after all for the MCU.
What have you done?
Ultimately, Loki is sent back to the TVA, but it's not the TVA we've been seeing him at. This one is straight up ruled by Kang the Conqueror, and this Mobius doesn't even know who our Loki is. So we're going to see that play out in Loki Season 2, because the credits confirm Season 2 is coming, and that's something I've been promising you all on the Phase Zero podcast for months now.
We shall never hear the end of it.
I think it's a safe bet Loki is going to convince Mobius and Hunter B-15 of their variant selves pretty quickly in Season 2. We'll also see this story play out in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because the timelines are creating all sorts of new worlds, and that could explain also how Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will return for Spider-Man No Way Home. Please, release the trailer now that we know this is coming. Maybe those versions of Spider-Man are just new variants where their previous films don't count, but it's more likely their stories in those films will be in these branch realities outside of the main MCU timeline. Overall, I think this episode was fantastic. Jonathan Majors chews up scenery like he chewed up that apple. He's going to be a great villain as Kang the Conqueror going forward. It answered all of our questions, and those answers made for more questions. It felt like I was watching a finale of Lost.
We have to go back, Kate.
It felt like a true TV season cliffhanger, delivering on all of the things I wanted to see from the beginning, like the big question of who is behind the TVA, and then it propelled a bunch of madness for Season 2 and elsewhere in the MCU. Loki and Sylvie kissing is a thing that I didn't really care for at first, but given the outcome, it seems like it's true to both of their arcs in this show. Loki is learning to love himself in a weird literal way, and Sylvie is not straying away from her mission of getting revenge on the people who took her life from her, and it ultimately ends with a Loki betraying somebody. Overall, Loki is my favorite show of the Disney Plus shows we've gotten so far, the finale was my favorite of the three, and I think it's the most satisfying and surprising, and WandaVision is a close second in both regards. Share your Marvel Studios show rankings in the comment sections to let us know you watched through the end. Leave any questions you have in the comment section and we can maybe address those in a future video, and subscribe to the Comicbook.com YouTube channel for more videos like this one.